my name's Malcolm from the Up the Cherries in All Departments podcast. Craig Beasley has asked me to drop in and say a few words to you. So, your season coming up, fresh start, new stadium, new hopes, new fears, whatever. The first thing I looked at was your transfer business, like 7 in and 12 out, whatever. I have followed you, so I got an idea of, what your fears are surrounding your squad, that it seems to be lacking a little bit. I can understand it. I sort of relate to it a little bit. How you go forward, that's the powers that be, isn't it? It's what the fans want and what the club does is normally not the same thing. So I can hope, for your sakes, that you get the players in you want. With your manager, great that Moisey came in January and took over and steadied the ship a little bit and got you up the table away from the danger zone. Now, how it's going to work out this coming season is anybody's business. My guess is, probably about the same, maybe 12th, 11th, if all goes well. There's many factors come into it. You've got the stadium, which, is totally alien for what you're used to. Good old Goodison actually did drop in there sometime back in the 70s for some third round of the FA Cup against Altrincham of all teams, a 1-1 draw. So nice little memory there. How will it affect the team, the players, the fans? It's going to be something very, very different. I hope it's all for the positive. It certainly looks pretty impressive, to be honest with you, and I wouldn't mind taking a trip over to see it. So fingers crossed for you that goes all well. With your squad, as I said, you've got 7 in. You've got our Mark Travis as a backup keeper, which is really good for you, but I can't see how many games he's going to get, whether he'll just be cup ties or whatever. We'll wait and see. All I can say is good luck for the season coming up, and hope, that you see some decent football, that some of the wishes will be fulfilled with new incomings, and that the fans will be relatively happy. If you're content with maybe 11th place in the table, I don't think it's a bad, outlook to have. I can't see him getting much higher than that, but I certainly can't see you fighting down the bottom end of the table. So, from my perspective, I would say, that's a pretty good outlook. As for us, well, we were in the headlines for all the wrong reasons, with half of our defence being decimated and players going for good money. I don't blame them going at all, going to big clubs, but it's getting the replacements in. Bournemouth do have the really good recruitment department where they won't panic buy. They'll sort the players out, and as long as they tick the boxes and do everything that Andoni wants them to do, then we'll bring them in and have a look at them and take it from there. Last week, obviously with Dango going to Brentford, that was a bit of a, let's just say, it wasn't expected as such, but he'd obviously, said on official channels that he would like to try and look somewhere else to further his career. I think when a player does that, his intentions are he don't want to stay around for much longer, which is unfortunate, but that's how it goes. So we brought in Traffear as a replacement for Kirkis, a left back. Good like for like, and to be honest with you, I don't think we're going to miss Kirkis at all. Another player that come in was Diakite from Lille, central defender, and he got thrown in at the deep end at the weekend. Also solid player. Obviously he's not Dean Howson, he's not Sabani. I think the way he plays will fit Andoni's style. Good with the ball, aggressive tackler. Yeah, I think that's a pretty strong replacement. Ideally, you'd like another centre-back, if possible, but we'll just see how it goes. How the rest of the season pans out for us, we'll wait and see. I'm pretty sure it's going to be the same old chaos football, high press, energy, and some weary legs at the end of the season. But it's great to watch, and having followed the Cherries since '68, I've been through the mill, seen some pretty dire stuff, but to where we are now is just dream world. And we're pushing on. We don't want to sit on our laurels, so we'll just take it as it comes. Yeah, with a stadium, excuse me, we're going to go up to 20,000 from 11, which is brilliant for the fans, brilliant for the community, really. It puts us, the next level up. How do I think we're going to get on? Well, I said 10th place, which isn't a bad outlook, to be honest with you. If we can sit around 9th or 10th, like we did last season, I'll be more than happy with that. I'm not looking for Europe, probably next season. So that'll be, in 2 years' time. That's all I can say, really. Not much more to add on it. Okay, the question about who's going to win the league. Sorry to have to tell you this, but I think Liverpool will do it. It's going to be close with Man City, I think, this season. They've also recruited pretty good. And the teams going down, well, believe it or not, we actually did a tier list on our channel, and the guys picked out Brentford to go down, and I couldn't really disagree, although maybe West Ham. Just don't know. Burnley, I would almost say the racing certainty to go back to the Championship. And Sunderland, my team to stay up, out of the three that came up. Maybe Leeds will just survive, but I'm not 100% sure. Anyway, thanks for having me on. Good luck to you guys the rest of the season, and hope it's a good one.
Hi, Lee Judges here. My predictions and what I think is going to happen with Arsenal and, of course, Everton. And going to start off with the Toffees. Everton, listen, I think the squad probably could do with one or two more players. I'm pretty sure everybody agree with that. But listen, I think a fantastic signing in getting Jack Grealish. I really, really hope that works. And I think it gives everybody a big boost. Everton, that signing. I also say for a neutral, I think everybody loves Jack, don't they? And going to Everton, I think makes Everton a little bit more popular because of Jack. So I'm pretty sure he'll do really, really well. I think that Everton under David Moyes done really, really well last season. I think that they've done well this season. I think that Everton hopefully get off to a good start and do really, really well. I'm predicting a top 10 finish in around that. I don't see Everton fighting for relegation. I hope not anyway, but I don't think that they will do. I do think if there's one problem, and I'll give this with a little bit of experience, is the new stadium, is that you don't feel quite as home and quite as intimidating as Goodison Park, and teams come there with a little bit more sort of look forward to playing there because it's the first time, and I think Everton might find that a little bit difficult. Fans getting used to the surroundings and all that, so I don't think that the ground this season may be as much as a fortress as Goodison has been over the last few years, and that sort of atmosphere. I think you're going to have to try and create that. I'm pretty sure you will do, but I think everybody's, looking forward to going to a new stadium, certainly. And I think it may take a little while to bed in. But other than that, I think Everton will do very, very well this year, and it'd be interesting to see where they go, and hopefully they will do well. As for Arsenal, listen, I think everybody's been saying missing piece of centre forward, and we'll get that centre forward. So to get that centre forward, I think it's big for us. I still think that maybe like Everton, we're all a little bit greedy, and we always want one or two more. I think that's maybe the Arsenal could do that. So, but I'm looking at our squad. I think we've definitely strengthened it, and Zubimendi looks a good player for us. So, listen, I think there's big pressure on Arsenal and big pressure on Arteta to get it right this season. So we'll have to wait and see. But at this moment in time, I've got good vibes about Arsenal, and if Gyökeres can hit the ground running, score the goals we need, who knows? Predictions, I'm going to back my team. I'm going to think that Arsenal, without a striker, In the last couple of seasons, we've come close. We've got a striker now, so I'm going to back Arsenal to pip Liverpool for the title. That would be nice, wouldn't it? Like, you know, and as I said, I predict probably like a top 10 finish for Everton. I think Everton are going to do okay this season. Like, you know, finally, who do I think is going to get relegated? I think, you know, usual suspects, the ones coming up. So I'm going to go Burnley and Sunderland. I've got a bad feeling for Bournemouth. You know, sold like most of their back four. I know they'd replace it, but they're not Premiership proven. I think they've done fantastically well over the last few seasons. And if, you know, anybody that's ever been to Bournemouth, they will realise how small it is. And for them to be doing what they're doing is unbelievable. But to be losing a lot of players that they have done, I fear for them. If not, maybe Wolves. Wolves have lost a few players as well. So, but I just think out of the three coming up, Leeds will just have enough to survive. Sunderland have done very, very well now on the transfer market, so you don't know. But you're always looking at those teams that have come up to go back down. So Burnley, Sunderland and Bournemouth for me. But most importantly, let's have a fantastic season. Good luck to Everton this season as well. Hope that they do well. And yeah, look forward to the new stadium and going there. And let's hope that Arsenal can beat Liverpool.
All right, lads, this is Neil from For the Love of Paul McGrath and Aston Villa podcast, and I was delighted to be asked by John to jump on and just kind of give my feelings about this Premier League season, because I, for one, am truly excited that football and club football is going to be back again. And firstly, I wanted to talk about Everton, I suppose. Obviously, I'm not an Everton fan, but Everton is kind of close to my heart in a lot of ways. Goodison was the ground I have been to more than any other ground outside of Villa Park, obviously. I just loved its old quaintness. I loved the fact that it was I love the fact that it's you know, it was a very special ground. It was a very unique type of ground. But obviously now you guys have moved to a brand new state of the art stadium, and it must be incredibly exciting for Everton fans from that point of view. You guys have needed it for a while. We've wanted it in a lot of ways for a while, should I say? And it's something that the club has been working towards. And you know, I think that you guys are going to build a nice squad between now and the end of the transfer window that would be befitting of that stadium. Obviously, David Moyes has come back in and he's managing the club. And you know what? I think just some people just fit at certain clubs, and David Moyes is obviously going to fit at Everton because he's been there and he's been an iconic type of manager that was there previously. So I think you guys are in for a hell of a lot of better season than you've had over the last couple of seasons. And you know, obviously, our old talisman Jack Grealish has just rocked up there on loan, so treat him well. Don't don't break him. And yeah, if Moyes can get him firing from that left hand side, I think it's going to be. I think he's going to be really exciting, and he's going to be somebody that you guys can really cheer on this year as well. I think obviously from a squad point of view, freshening up that squad, trying to bring in, I suppose, more reinforcements is something that we continue, like ourselves here at Villa, will be something that you guys can continue to do between now and the end of the transfer window. And I think you guys will have the backing. I think you'll have the momentum to be able to do that as well. And yeah, I think that you guys will be pretty happy with the squad that you'll have developed by the end of this transfer window. Now, for my own self, I suppose, from an Aston Villa squad point of view, we've been pretty quiet in the transfer market. We've made two signings: a backup goalkeeper who, ironically, will start the first day of the season because Emi Martinez is going to be suspended, and Marco Bissot. And to be honest with you, for the pittance we paid for him, I'm not sure that there are that many better second goalkeepers out there. You know, he was first choice goalkeeper for Brest, played in the Champions League last year, and so far this off-season has looked pretty solid. So he's been one incoming that we've had. Also, Evan Gasson that we've just signed recently. He is coming into kind of playing in that forward four role, if you want to call it that, either centre forward, a 10, or on either wing. He's got experience in all of those, and we need to have reinforcements up there, given the fact that we've lost Rashford and Asensio. Although we'll put a pin on the fact that we might have lost Asensio because he could be back in the coming days. That would be nice if that is the case. Obviously, you know, our squad, we've got a lot of players that didn't really get a lot of game time last year due to injury and were, I suppose, bought last off season and in January, like Daniel Mallon, like Ian Matson, and like former Evertonian Amadou Onana, who I think is primed to have quite a good season this year. provided he can break into the team in front of Tielemans and Kamara, who have formed a superb partnership for Aston Villa there. But Daniel Malen is somebody that has had an absolutely cracking pre-season, and he's somebody that Villa are going to rely on from that right-hand side, and also an understudy to Watkins as well. So I'm excited for this off-season, and I think every off-season that we have under Unai Emery into the future, and hopefully it's many, many, many of those, and he builds a dynasty here at Aston Villa. I will be always pretty happy with regards to that. Predicted finishes. I don't know. It's hard to kind of predict where Aston Villa will finish this year, because you're kind of going with the same team again. So, but yet this year, I'm confident that we would actually take that step and finish fifth this season. And why do I think that? The reason I think that is because obvious blind faith, number one, and second of all is that we went through an awful period last year. I think it was 10 games in a row where we couldn't feel the same centre half partnership. That has a drain on results, and that has a drain on stability and consistency as well. And with a small bit more injury luck, and God knows we did not have that last year. And I suppose really every team in the league can say that. But with a small bit more of injury luck, we only lost out in Champions League football by the slimmest of margins last year, albeit a massively duff performance against Manchester United in the last day of the season. But I'm going to go with Villa are going to finish fifth this year and make me a happy boy. I think that Everton will be solid contenders for anywhere from ninth to sixth. I think really Everton, because there's a lot of teams in that area that have needed to kind of strengthen to stand still. And what I mean by that is that Brighton have lost quite a lot of talent. No, we know Brighton can pluck talent out of midair and get stuff to work. But I think that there's still slight question marks over their manager. But obviously, second season in the Premier League, I think there's an argument to be made that in the second season he would have seen it all and he'd be able to move in a more positive direction from there. West Ham. Once again, I don't know what to really expect from West Ham under Graham Potter. They've made a couple of signings, but no big massive splash, like an awful lot of clubs in the Premier League this year outside the top four. I think obviously, look, everyone is going to talk about the Spurs, the Man United, the resurgence there. I could just as easily see Man United not have a resurgence as I could see them have one. I think as well, Brentford, obviously a team that has been perennially in that position, will probably more than likely be, they like, I just don't know, an incredibly unproven manager in Keith Andrews, and they've lost quite a few players and haven't to, as of yet, and obviously there are 2 weeks left in the transfer window, replace them. So I think Everton should be looking to do a Forest. Can Forest do a Forest next year? I'm not quite so sure that they can. A lot of injury luck, but so there's a lot of question marks. Essentially every team from 5th to 10th could finish in any one of those positions, and I think that every team in the league, probably bar 3, can aim to get into those positions. But who will win the league? I think will I whisper it? Probably going to be Liverpool. I think like the business they've done has been outstanding, and if they get Alexander Isak, well then all bets are off. It's just an incredible array of talent that they will have. But saying that, can Arsenal go one step further forward? No is probably the answer. But look, stranger things have happened. And can Man City just, hit for like all they will win more games than they did last year. And then obviously you've got Chelsea coming up on the rails as well. So, but I think unfortunately for you guys, it's probably going to be a Liverpoolian team, which is not the one that you guys will want to have won the league as well. And who do I think will get relegated? I don't know, but I'm going to go with Burnley. I'm going to go with Sunderland, and I'm going to go with Brentford. Go on. Why not? Brentford. Obviously, the Sunderland fans, I think, would feel aggrieved. I'm not having a go. I just think there's a lot of unprovenness within that squad, and obviously, they could just as easily stay up. But I feel really under the hammer asking who's going to get relegated, because it could be anyone, or it could just be the 3 teams that come up. So we will see. Based, ask me again after 15 games, and I'll give you a clearer picture. So thanks very much to John for asking me to do this, and I really appreciate it. And best of luck for the rest of the season.
Hi, Everton fans. This is Billy from Besotted, the Brentford podcast. Happy new season to you. And I hope you're looking forward to the new season. I am. I've been away for quite a while. And so I've sort of had football removed from my body. So now I'm actually very excited to be back. First away game, or first game of the season away from home as well. I love a good old away day, so especially when you've had a couple of weeks away on holiday as well. So I'm very much looking forward to that. And I bet you are as well, because obviously you've got your new stadium to go to, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But I've been asked to talk about Everton and their season, Brentford and their season as well. So it's been an interesting summer for us. As you probably know, everyone's left. Well, not everyone's left. We've had a lot of people left, so we've got a lot of things that we're actually starting to get to grips with. But looking at Everton as well this season, for you, obviously, you've had a few interesting seasons where you've sort of skirted quite close to the win when it comes to relegation as well. Obviously, David Moyes has come in, and I thought he's done really well, actually turning everything around. I think Everton fans in general are very happy with what Moyes has done, compared to Sean Dyche. I think Sean Dyche did a job for you to a certain extent, but after a while, it gets a little bit stale, But that's just the way that it goes. Sometimes you have to sort of kind of evolve as it is. So Everton, I mean, this season, you're asking me about this season, how Everton are looking. Again, I've got to, apologise to a certain extent. I've been away. I've actually been to Brazil for a month, actually. And interesting, because I noticed that you signed actually a Brazilian player as well, which I'll talk about in a little bit now. But so I'm still getting to grips with what's going down. But for what I can gather, I remember before I went away, I remember David Moyes was actually not very happy about kind of the signings that were coming in. I think you were struggling to get signings coming in. So I think at that time, a lot of people were saying, "God, blimey, they're moving to a new stadium and they can't get any players in. They're going to be in all sorts of trouble." But I think since then, you've actually had quite a bit of transfer activity going on. So, with your squad, it's looking like you've got Thierry Barry from Villarreal, which you paid, 30 million euros for, it looks like as well. Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall, I don't know anything about Barry as well. I know he's a striker, but, he's looking sort of fairly good. Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall, I know him actually very well. I mean, I know he's at Chelsea. I thought it was a bad move for him to go to Chelsea, if you ask me. Honestly, he was at Luton, if I remember rightly. And when we were in the Championship, we played against Luton, and he looked actually like a really good player. We were thinking that he could be kind of like a really good Brentford type player. But at the time, we already had our central midfielders in place, and there was no place for somebody like Dewsbury Hall. So he went to Chelsea, which I thought was a bit of a waste. And now he's moved on to yourself. So I actually think that's a really good signing, because I think potentially with the right management, with the right tactics, he could be really good. You've got Carlos Alcaraz, who's come from Flamenco. And I talked about me just being in Brazil. Like I said, I was out there for a month. I was in Rio for the last week. And also my mate, I met him in the World Cup in 2014. He supports Atletico Mineiro. I went to Atletico Mineiro game out there, and they actually played Flamenco a couple of days after I left. I was a bit gutted that I missed it. And for them, they're massive rivals. So he's actually kind of instilled the sort of hatred of Flamenco in there. And when I went to Brazil, literally, Flamenco fans are like, when you had Man United fans back in the day, Man United fans, you go to Southampton, who are Man United fans, you go to sort of Ipswich, they're Man United, they're everywhere. That's the same thing with Flamenco. They're like mice. Everywhere you go, like red and black striped shirts, right? You know what I'm saying? Everywhere. I went to Salvador, they were there. I went to San Luis, they were there. I went to Manaus, all the top. They literally are everywhere, and then black and red shirts, and they're just like Man United. A lot of them, obviously, they're football fans. They love their football, but obviously, just like literally in any town that you go to, it's just full of flamenco fans. So I'm not particularly fond of flamenco myself, but that's instilled to me by my mate. But obviously, they do produce decent players. They're top of the league, Brazilian league at the moment now, and so you've got Carlos Alcaraz, so central midfielder. So I'm sure maybe he could do a job for yourself. Got a couple of other players from Bayern Munich as well. Mark Travers, you've got a new goalkeeper in from Bournemouth, which is interesting. Does that mean there's going to be a bit of an evolution happening? But obviously, the most interesting player that you've got is Jack Grealish. You've done a free Grealish, where you've got him on a loan transfer from Man City, which I think is a great move for yourselves as well, and a great move for him. Again, going to Manchester City, I didn't think was a right time. He played against us when he was at Aston Villa in the Championship. And I remember when Dean Smith went from Brentford to Villa, and I chatted to Dean. I went up to Villa and I had a good old chat to him. And he says, "Bill, mate, it's just different level up here, mate. We've got players like Jack Grealish. You can't touch him. He is unbelievable, a fantastic player to manage." And he was really good for them. And I just think going to Manchester City really stilted his development. And as you can see, so he needs somewhere that he can go where he can actually be himself. And if Moyes lets him be himself and be the creative player that he is, he could be a real danger as well. Coming back to how do I think your squad's going to be? I mean, must admit, if you asked me before I went away, I would have gone, well, it's a bit dodgy, but I think actually you've kind of shaping yourself up pretty well. I think you're going to be doing okay this season, and I look forward to coming down to playing you lot, or you coming down to us, and also us coming up to you. You know, so that's your transfer business with your squad. Stadium, obviously, you know, like I said to you, stadium wise, everybody, as you know, is going to be coming up to Everton this season. I'm really looking forward to coming to Everton this season. I haven't come for the last couple of seasons due to just kind of like workload. You know, so I used to go to every single game and went to every single game first season in the Premier League, then started to pick and choose the games. So I thought, you know, let me pick and choose the Everton one. Didn't go to it last season, the season before. But then I said, because I'm definitely going to go this season. Doesn't matter if it's a Tuesday night, a Thursday night. Definitely go because everyone wants to go and check out your new stadium and tick it off. It looks great. It looks like it's on the river. It looks like it's closer into town, which means that it could be more sociable because we like sociable away days as it is. So yes, so looking forward to that, and I'm sure that Everton fans will enjoy playing in their new stadium. If you make the noise that you do when you are really positive, because I'd say to Everton fans, I think really good fans, but you know, you've got to keep your positivity because when you're positive and get behind your team, mate, we played you one time and the first half, I think you were winning. I think you were winning 2-0 in the first half. And the noise, we said we'd never heard noise, anything like that. And I've been everywhere around the world watching football. And it was the only other place probably was Birmingham City when we went to there in the 90s, which was absolutely mental. But yeah, that was quite bad. But yeah, the noise was unbelievable. But then the second half, I think we turned it around. We ended up winning 3-2, I think it was. And you know, your fans, and this is not a criticism, I'm just saying you know, tendency sometimes to get on the team's back, and I think that can actually act in the opposition's advantage. And I think it probably worked in our advantage on that day. But like I said to you, when you get behind your team, it's proper noisy, and I can imagine at that new stadium, if you get behind them, actually it's going to be proper noisy. So very much looking forward to that. David Moyes, I remember him when he played, when he was a manager for Preston North End when he came down to Brentford. Actually, that was proper back in the day, down in the Griffin Park days. I thought I thought he was actually a very good manager. And then he went to Man United, and it all went horribly wrong for him. So him kind of coming out and going to West Ham, I thought he actually did a pretty good job at West Ham, but they weren't really happy about it, and they kind of forced him out, I think. And then he's come down to you, and I think he's done a pretty good job with you. He's obviously very experienced. He's, you know, he's a bit old school, and but he knows what he wants and he knows what he needs to get out of the team. And I think that, you know, he's going to do enough to kind of get you into the position where you have to be, because I think you're in a building process now where you need to be sort of building towards sort of kind of mid-table and bottom of the top half of the table and stuff like that. And sometimes that takes years. So I think he's a good person to do that. I actually quite like David Moyes. Yeah, so which is all good. So our team, talking about Brentford. Cool, blimey, how long you got? So we've had an interesting summer. As you know, Thomas Frank, who we absolutely loved, he's been on our podcast, Pride of West London, by the way, if you want to check it out. Thomas Frank has been on our podcast. He's a lovely bloke. He talks football. He knows all about football. Great tactician. I've said, and I've got to all the England games, home and away. I've been to 18 tournaments, 16 tournaments. I can't even remember with them. And I've actually said, and I love Southgate. But I said that if Thomas Frank was manager of England in those two finals we were in, we'd have won both of them, if not one of them, 100%. And everyone said to me, "Oh yeah, you've got your Brentford goggles on." It's not. It's just I'm a football person, and I just know. And you know, you watch the way that the way that he manages. He's a very, very good manager. Whether or not he'll get swallowed up by the politics and everything like that at Tottenham is a different story altogether. You know, and the pressures and everything like that. I don't know that, but he's a very, very good manager. So we were gutted, and I must admit, I kind of went off, you know, went under the sheets and sort of kind of hid for a couple of days, you know, when he decided that he was going off to Tottenham. But then, you know, we came back and had to think about it. We've employed our free kick coach, which is the big headline story, as our manager, which everyone says, right, Brentford are definitely going down. They've hired their free kick coach. You know, he's never managed before in the Premier League or anywhere. But that's not really how we operate, you know, with Mark Warburton, when we hired him, he was a banker. He worked in the bank. And we hired him, and he did very well for us. Thomas Frank, yeah, he was nowhere at the time. In fact, I've got a story about Thomas Frank. He was at Brøndby, and and the chairman at Brøndby, right, was really unhappy with him, right, and was managing for whatever it was. I can't remember what he was doing, but he just thought Thomas Frank isn't good. But then the chairman, what a child, he basically went on the forum under a pseudonym and just basically started writing all these posts about Thomas Frank, slagging him off, like I'm saying. Thomas Frank found out about it, and he got upset. And I think he left the club. And after that, he didn't really have a job. And Brentford took him on board, said, "Look, mate, we're going to make you assistant to Dean Smith." So he's assistant to Dean Smith before he became head coach. And he came in, and again, we promoted from within. I think my point is, I'm saying is that we don't necessarily go for name brands or people that have done a job beforehand in the business. We go for people who we think fits in with the Brentford way. And we got Andrews in because we thought he's a decent coach. Let's get him in. Let's give him a job. All right, mate, let's do this. Do this free kick coach thing. We'll teach you how to do it. And then when they were doing it, they basically monitored him to see how good he is in certain areas and interjecting and working with the manager and working with the players. And they made a decision that they think he's good enough. And I trust Brentford implicitly now after 10 or 12 years, them doing what they're doing now and us starting to learn it. So I'm quite happy about him being in charge. A little bit more nervous about the backroom staff because Thomas Frank, he kind of came in with like, with Mr. Bean and he left with Alfred Einstein and co, right? So he basically came in with his mate and he took all our people off to him with Tottenham, which we're a little bit peeved about, we have to say. So we've had to build our backroom staff with new people very quickly. And obviously, we don't know who those people are. We've been told that they're very good, but for me, that's a little bit more kind of worrying because normally you kind of slowly get backroom staff in, but we've had to kind of just parachute these people in quickly. So for me, that's a little bit more of an issue. Obviously, with our team, we've sold Brian and Bumo for £70 million to Manchester United. We always knew that we were going to sign him. So for us, that's not an issue. No Brentford fan is going, "Oh my God, we're missing Mbumo." He's going because we always knew he was going to go. The issue is getting in a player to replace him. And from what we can hear on the Brentford, the Besotted grapevine as well. And what's the nice thing about having a club like us because we're quite small, so it's quite connected, so you kind of know what's going on. I think we're quite close to getting a deal done for somebody to come in for Brian and Bumo. And then we've obviously got Wisa, who was on fire last season, but he was so much on fire, he decided that he was going to leave the club and try and go somewhere else. So Wisa's been on strike. Wisa's on strike. Your defence is terrified. Kind of like what Tarkowski did to us when he went to leave us to go to Burnley. He went on strike for us, which we're not very happy with him. So they got a nickname for him called the Jughead Judas, which is a bit rude, really. But that's his nickname with all Brentford fans. But we will come back to that in a minute. Yeah, Wisa is on strike. It's a bit of an issue. Brentford are holding firm. They're saying, right, mate, if you're going to go, we want 40 million. That's it, and we're not taking any less. And they are literally not holding down. So don't be surprised if Wisa is going to still be in Brentford in the 1st of September. All these newspaper sources and these news sources are saying that he's close on the verge to signing a deal with Newcastle. Newcastle think that they can lowball us into kind of letting him go, but we're not having any of it. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's still going to be there the 1st of September. Other than that, we've got one of your mates from across the other side of the park, Jordan Henderson. We got him in the centre of our midfield. He's taken the place of Norgard, who got transferred to Arsenal. It's a bit of a surprise, that one. Norgard was a great player, captain, very important player, but also he was one of these players who struggles. If he plays more than 2 games in a week, or if he plays sort of kind of quite a lot of games in a row, he's just kind of come out. He takes about an hour after a match to kind of do rehab and everything like that. So we're already looking at how we were going to replace him. I think this season we're going to probably play him with another midfielder. Then all of a sudden Jordan Henderson's now come in. I mean, maybe the idea was probably we're going to get Henderson and him playing probably sort of kind of side by side and sort of opting in and out. But now that he's gone, I think we've got Henderson in, which I think is actually a great move for us because we're not looking for a player who's going to play for us for 6 or 7 or 8 years and wants £150,000 a week. We're looking for someone as a stopback for maybe a year or two till our younger players come through to fill that gap, which we have actually got young players who are going to be the next Norgard. So I think it's a great signing. Other than that, like I said to you, we've got Rico Henry, our left back. Every time I come on this podcast, I tell you that he's been out for 2 years, but he's back now. Hooray! We've got Aaron Hickey, who's been out for 2 years as well, our right back, so he's back. Hooray! And probably the most and then we got this guy called Michael Coyote, who we got in last the summer, who's a defender, who's already got a brilliant song about him after about 2 games, and he looks really quite exciting. Defensively, still a little bit off, but just exciting as marauding down the wings. But probably the most exciting signing that we've got, because we've got Thiago up front, he was injured. He's back now after a year out as well. He's been looking all right. We've got Cavallo, who's at Liverpool, and we've got Keane Lewis-Potter, who's now gone up at the wing. So they're up there. But the most exciting signing for us is this kid called Milambo. He's only 20 years old, and he came from, I think he might have been, is it Fiorentina he might have come from? I'm not sure. But he's come from somewhere. He's looking really good, taking on defenders, but he's only been coming off the bench at the moment now. But I reckon probably by the time we play Liverpool, oh, Everton, not Liverpool, by the time we play Liverpool as well, but by the time we go up to Liverpool and we play Everton, he's going to be in the first team. He's going to be starting for us. So for us, there's a lot of change. There's a lot of going on with Brentford. A lot of fans are a little bit nervous. Everyone's written us off and say we're going to get relegated. We quite like situations like that because we always like to just take it to people and say we do things differently. So we're having a bit of a laugh. And I'll be honest with you, if we go down, we get relegated. I'm cool about it as well because I quite enjoy the Championship. I just enjoy going to football matches, meeting other football fans, and having laughs. What else have you asked me for? Yeah, so we talked about the transfer business, predicted finishes for Brentford and Everton. I'm going to go straight in as Brentford, and I'm going to say that we're going to finish 14th. If we finish 14th or anywhere above 14th, I'm going to be absolutely delighted considering what's been going on with us. This is a massive rebuilding season for us. So if we can rebuild and maintain a position like that, I thought we've done really well. As for Everton, as I said before, I went away to Brazil. I would have actually put you down again as kind of like, God knows what's going on here. 17th, 18th, 17th, maybe 16th. However, it just goes to show you transfer windows are there for a reason. I think they're far too long as far as I'm concerned because there's so much that just doesn't happen in a long period of time. But the transfer window ends at the end of August. You've brought in a load of players now. I think that you're looking all right. And I reckon that, Everton could be looking at about finishing about 12th this season. So I think that she's going to be doing okay. So who's going to win the league? Unfortunately, I'm going to have to say that I think that your neighbours across the park are going to win the league. Arsenal. Second again, ole ole, as we sang to them when we went to Arsenal, which they weren't very happy with actually this season. I think they're going to be second again. I think Manchester City will maybe finish in the top four, and I think Chelsea, who think they're absolutely going to run away with the league, they're not going to win the league this season. I think they might finish in third place. So that's what I'm thinking about the players in the top four positions. But like I said to you, I think it's going to be Liverpool. As opposed to who's going to be relegated, I'd almost like to go with who's going to be relegated, or sort of go with my heart. The places that I love going to away days and I love going, all over the country. Like I said to you, meeting other fans. And so if we were going to get relegated, the places that I don't want to go to, listen, I've been to Burnley a million times, 1981 or 1982 is the first time I went to Burnley. And to be quite honest with you, I'm not overly excited about going to Burnley again. So I've got to put Burnley down in my relegation zones just for that reason as well. Then who else has come up as well? So you've got Burnley, you've got oh God, well, you've got Leeds United. Okay, so you've got Leeds United, who Leeds United won the league. I have to admit, again, I've been to Leeds loads of times, and Leeds I think they've won the Premier League this season, which I haven't. And obviously, so I think that Leeds United, if they got relegated, I'd be very happy if they got relegated. Of course, Sunderland. And how can I forget that? Because I'm going there next week and we're all really looking forward to going there. Now, I have to admit, I actually don't want Sunderland to go down. I want Sunderland to stay up because it's actually a really good place to go. It's got a really good set of fans, they're really good supporters. It's just a great away day. Newcastle is a good away day, but it's a bit cliche. Everyone goes, "Oh, I'm going to Newcastle for the weekend, stag do, oh, this, that, the other." Whereas Sunderland is very, very different. It's a really, really good place to go away. So I'm looking forward very much to go to Sunderland. So I actually don't want them to get relegated. So it's not. I'm not using this case of like who will get relegated. It's like a case of who I want to not get relegated due to away day scenarios. So I think let's keep them up. And then for me, probably the next team, West Ham haven't really done very much in the window. They just seem to be sort of kind of slipping away a little bit. They seem to have lost their way. So I think, and also if you've ever been to West Ham, it's not a great away day, and it's only down the road for us. It'll take me an hour to get there from here. The stadium is not great atmosphere. It's just not great vibe. It's there's a few drinks in Hackney Wick if you go down to Hackney Wick, where there's some places to go there, but it's just not a great away day. So I'm thinking I could definitely miss doing a West Ham away day. So I'm going to put them down as my third team for relegation this season. And like I said to you, it's totally based on away days rather than any factual nature whatsoever. So anyway, tell you something, I've given you the information as well, and everything about Brentford, everything about Everton. I'm very much looking forward to this season. I hope you're looking forward to this season too. If you're coming down to Brentford, don't forget that you can wear your colours, you can go in anywhere, there's no bouncers on the doors, go down by the river, go into Brentford itself. If you check out Besotted, we'll give you a list of all the pubs that you can go to. And like I said to you, if you see us, buy us a beer, I'll buy you a beer, which is all good because, like I said to you, we love football fans coming down and talking football. Everton fans, enjoy yourselves very much. Have yourselves a good season, and I will catch up with you when I come up to your ground very, very soon. Billy from Beside.
Hello there, my name's Adi Packham. I am the presenter of the Albion Roar radio show here in sunny Brighton, and we are all very much looking forward to the new season. Lots to look forward to with yourselves. Obviously, you have a shiny new stadium, and that is the biggest thing for you, I would guess, for those of a toffee persuasion. Firstly, can I just say that we're thrilled to be the first team to play a competitive fixture at Bramley Moor. That said, we have absolutely no intention of coming and rolling over and giving you your first victory there. New stadiums are a little bit funny, right? So sometimes it can take years, decades even, for it to feel like home. New routines will have to be forged. That person who's been sitting next to you for 20 years, it could be on the other side of the stadium now. And, we found at the Amex that, people have been sat together for years. Obviously, it was slightly different with us because we went through various different stadiums, and with Dean wasn't really fit for purpose. But, you have the people that like to sing together. They might be in different parts of the stadium, and it does take a little bit of time for it to bed in. It's fantastic for you to have that new stadium. Goodison was great, but it was old. And it's great that your women's team are still going to be playing there. As for stuff on the pitch, there's been some interesting arrivals for you lot, notably that of Jack Grealish, and obviously it's a World Cup year, and Grealish that left Villa would walk into the current England side, but is that player still inside there? Can he rediscover that form that he had before Pep knocked it out of him? Kiernan Dewsbury Hall is a player that looked like he was coming to Brighton last season, but he elected more money and not playing over the chance to be part of something a little bit bigger. But he does have the potential to be a great signing, and he will certainly have some sort of a point to prove. As for David Moyes, last season he still had something about him, and he will want a strong start to the season. I think you want to be looking up rather than down, but that's where you've been for the last couple of years. So it's just a case of bedding yourself into that new stadium and enjoying it, because it's amazing having a new stadium, and we're looking forward to it. Okay, as for Brighton, perhaps the biggest story of the summer was that of João Pedro moving to Chelsea. It was a move that our chief exec Paul Barber quipped, Chelsea get loyalty points for shopping with us now. João was a little bit of a funny one, to be honest. He undoubtedly provided us with some key moments. The winner in the last minute against Marseille, the brace against Crystal Palace, last minute penalties. But perhaps the fight they had with Jan-Paul van Hecker in training, coupled with one red card that he got given, plus another one that probably should have given, showed that there was a little bit of petulance there. Perhaps Brazil giving him the number 9 shirt went to his head a little bit, as it all went downhill from then on in. In positive news, the players that we spent nearly 200 million quid on last year have now all settled. And we've strengthened them again this season, with the defence getting some key new personnel in the shape of Olivier Boscagli, who's coming from PSV. Maxime de Kuiper has joined from Club Brugge, and Diego Coppola has signed from Hellas Verona. The defence was something which needed a little bit of work after last season. We were conceding nearly 2 goals a game, and it was a massive concern, as was the form of captain Lewis Dunk. Jan-Paul van Hecker got player of the season, and his best partnership last season was actually with Adam Webster, but he's just got an ACL, so we're not going to see him. Probably not at all this season, but obviously we wish him well and hope that he can get back up and running. We've also added some personnel up top. Charalampos Kostulas, known as Babis, has come in from Olympiakos, and Stefanos Sismas has come from Nuremberg, although Stefanos did actually join last January but stayed on loan at Nuremberg. Both of those two are Greek wonder kids. And that is an emerging nation for players at the moment, and they have a very, very good chance of going to the World Cup. So that'd be interesting. Also, Sunderland's playoff winner Tommy Watson has joined us, but we have seen Simon Adingra go in the opposite direction to Sunderland. Pervez Estupiñán has gone to AC Milan, which we're a bit sad about. That it's sometimes players just need new pastures, right? Then, of course, you've probably heard the rumour mill about Carlos Baleba, which is a bit of a concern. But, if Man United want him, they will have to pay a British transfer record to get him. He's not for sale. He's under contract for another 3 years plus another year. He is key to our success this season. We will undoubtedly sell Carlos, but not this summer. And if United want, if they can't even afford to pay their tea lady, they can't afford 120 million for Carlos. It's just not going to happen. As for how we will go, well, we're confident of finishing in the top 6 and have another European campaign. Last year, again, we were scoring goals, but we had a soft underbelly, which we've tried to rectify. And also, the gaffer, Fabian Hürseler, he's got another year in the Premier League under his belt, and he'll be keen to improve on last year's 8th place. Players to look out for is, of course, Karu Matoma, who everybody loves, don't they? Yankuba Minte, if he gets his decision making right, he is frustrating, but I think he will be our highest assist maker this year. He just makes something happen, and it's frustrating, but he will. I think he'll be better this year. Obviously, Carlos Baleba if he stays. I also have a feeling about Matt O'Reilly this season, although he's another one that is gaining interest from abroad. And we just kind of like the transfer window to shut right now, please. Position for us, I'm going for 6th position, hoping for higher. But 6th would be an improvement on last year. And obviously we want to win a cup, as does everybody. And for you, I think an improvement on last year, but I still think you won't finish higher than 11th. As for the winners, sadly for you lot, I can't see any further than Liverpool. I think City will improve on last year. Chelsea are worrying me a hell of a lot. But Liverpool have strengthened, and I still absolutely love Alexis McAllister. He's an Albion legend. What can I say? As for relegation, though, for the 3rd year in a row, I suspect it's going to be the 3 promoted clubs that go down, which is, of course, Sunderland, Burnley and Leeds. But we're hoping for an exciting season. And, if you want to find out more about the Albion, come and find us. We're the Albion Roar. We're on Radio Reverb in Brighton on 97.2 FM. We're online at radioreverb.com. We're on DAB. We're on Smart Speaker. And if you can't find us, you're not trying hard enough. Thanks again. See you soon.
Yes, hello everyone, it's Joe Redman here, and I'm a Burnley fan, and I run the Turfcast podcast, which is a Burnley FC YouTube channel and podcast, just to give my thoughts ahead of the upcoming season. Now, what do I think of Everton this season? Their squad, transfer business, stadium, and David Moyes. Well, in terms of transfer business, I am quite excited to see Jack Grealish in an Everton shirt in a way that I shouldn't be for somebody else's club. Mainly because I loved him when he was at Villa. And I remember thinking this guy is going to be amazing for England. And don't get me wrong, in his first season at City, not only did he win a lot of accolades, he was fantastic as well. He had a really good season. A lot of people seem to forget that he had a really good season his first season at City. He started to come off the boil a little bit in that second season, and especially in the third season. He barely even played, did it? Pep turned him into a system player. That was the problem. He needs freedom like he had at Villa. He needs to be in that number 10. I remember when he came to the turf, the first season that Villa got promoted back to the Premier League, he absolutely ran the show. He was superb. Incredibly frustrating, obviously, watching him play for another team, and I'm sure it will be when I see him come to the turf, and obviously when I go to Everton this season. But I am looking forward to see him hopefully get back to his best. And I think David Moyes can get him back to his best if he uses him the right way and doesn't turn him into a system player, which Pep did, which I don't think anybody other than Pep would do that. But who am I to argue with Pep? He's one of the greatest managers of all time. In terms of transfer business, I'll be honest, I don't know too much about Barry. I think Dewsbury Hall's an astute signing, though, to be fair. as is Grealish, obviously, I've already mentioned. I'm just looking at some of the others now. I don't know much about Alcaraz and Asnu. Don't know much about him. And Travers as well, actually. Yeah, he's a okay goalkeeper, but I doubt, obviously, with Pickford being there, you'd see much of him, to be fair. As for Burnley this season, you know what? A lot of people are predicting us to finish 20th. Fun fact, we've never finished 20th in the Premier League, ever. And I don't think we'll finish 20th in the Premier League again this season. A lot of people seem to be thinking that Sunderland are going to be the best of the promoted clubs. I think it's worth mentioning that Sunderland were about 30 points worse off, maybe more than that, than Burnley and Leeds last season. They had to spend a lot of money just to catch us two up. Don't get me wrong, Granit Xhaka, I think, is a brilliant bit of business, and he's going to be their captain, I've seen today, and I think he brings a lot of Premier League experience as well, which is something that you need. But what Burnley did a couple of years ago is a similar thing to what Sunderland did, in the fact that we've signed a lot of unknowns from Europe who haven't played in the Premier League before. So they're not necessarily unknowns, but they're unknown in the Premier League, and they're going to take time to adjust. They're going to take time to gel. It didn't work for us a couple of seasons ago. It genuinely did. We were god awful, weren't we, the last time in the Premier? Obviously, we played you 3 times. Obviously, in the League Cup as well, battered us every single time. We were awful, and I think Sunderland, I don't think they're going to be as bad as us, because they've brought some decent players in as well, like your Granit Xhakas. But I feel like they're going to take too long to gel. And I think ultimately they'll then be playing catch-up, because they've got a lot of players that are going to take time to adjust. I like some of Leeds United signings, though, but I still think they're 2 or 3 players away from staying up. In terms of Burnley this season, now, look, I know a lot of people are predicting Burnley to finish 20th. Fun fact, we've never finished 20th in the Premier League this season, and I don't think we will again this season. I think that will be Sunderland. I've seen a lot of people predicting like Sunderland like 12th and stuff like that. Just getting carried away. Like the gap is huge between the Premier League and the Championship. And let's not forget that Sunderland were about 30 points, potentially even more than that, away from Burnley and Leeds last season. Of course, both finished on 100 points. They needed to spend a lot of money just to catch Burnley and Burnley and Leeds. So they've spent a lot of money, and I think they're going to spend more. And they have brought in some decent quality. I like the signing of Granit Xhaka, who brings a lot of Premier League experience. And I think that is something that we didn't do a couple of years ago, because we did a similar approach to what Sunderland have done this year. We used data points to look at players from abroad in Europe who've never played in the Premier League before, bring them over here, and then they take time to adjust to the Premier League. They can't get used to the physicality of the Premier League. They pick up a lot of injuries and things like that. Some of them don't necessarily have the right mindset, like they won't run through brick walls for the badge and things like that. Look, I'm not saying we should hold everybody to Burnley's example, but there's too many examples of this happening where players have taken too long to adjust. And I just think that'll happen to Sunderland. I don't think they'll be as bad as us a couple of seasons ago. But I think they're going to take time to adjust. And by October, November, they're playing catch up then, and they're going to struggle, I think. So I think they're finished bottom. As it stands, I think we finished second bottom. I don't know. I'm quietly impressed with some of the signings that we've made. Kyle Walker, for example, a lot of people criticised it, but he's looked very, very good in pre-season. A lot of people saying his legs have gone because they remember that last game he played for England, where, to be fair, he did look very, very poor. I will admit that. But from what we've done in pre-season, it's looking like we're going to play him as part of a back 5 or back 3, however you want to look at it, with the 3 centre-backs and the 2 wing-backs. And we obviously defend quite deep, so he's not going to need his legs as much as he did in his previous years at Man City in England and things like that. And also, if Kyle Walker only has 75% of the legs he had back 5 years ago, he's still very, very fast. But in pre-season, he's looked very, very good. So I think our squad, our first 11, is shaping up quite nicely. But I just feel like we're just lacking a bit of depth. And with Leeds, I think Leeds have signed some good players. There was the lad whose name currently escapes me from Germany, who looks very, very good and looked very, very good in previous seasons in the Bundesliga. But I still think they're a couple of signings away from potentially staying up. So I do worry it's going to be the same for all 3 promoted teams again. But we'll see. Obviously, I think Sunderland will bring more in. I think Leeds will bring more in. I'm a little bit worried that that's us done. For us this season, I'm struggling. I'm struggling to see how we're going to get out of the bottom 3. Predicted finishes for both teams. Obviously, I've just said I feel like Burnley will finish 19th. I've already elaborated on that, so I don't need to elaborate on it again. I think Everton, I think you're going to have a better season than you've had recently. I've seen a few people say dark horses for the top half. I think that might be a bit of a stretch at the minute. I have Everton somewhere between 10th and 12th, more towards the lower end of that because of the signing of Jack Grealish. I think he will rejuvenate Everton a bit. I think he will play brilliantly. I think Moyes will get the best out of him, as I've already said. So, I said it's unlikely. I think they'll finish in the top. I think if you finish in the top half, like I said, it's 10th. I'm not seeing an 8th, top 8 finish or something like that I've seen some people predict. Somewhere between 10th and 12th for me with Everton. Who will win the league? Sorry, guys. Sorry to say this on your channel, but I do think it'll be Liverpool. Look, I don't want it to be Liverpool as much as you guys do. The fans are insufferable. So I hope I am wrong. I would like to see. Well, let's see Burnley win it, obviously, but it's not going to happen. But out of the teams at the top who can put up a decent enough fight, I think there's only really City and Arsenal that can put up a decent enough fight. Maybe Chelsea, but that's pushing it a bit. So I'd like to see City win it. I know it's boring. I don't particularly like Arsenal either. I think their fans are just as insufferable as Liverpool fans. So I'll give it City, but unfortunately, guys, yeah, I do think it's going to be. I do think it's going to be Liverpool again.
Hi guys, Charlie here from Chelsea Fan TV, and I'm here to deliver a few pre-season predictions ahead of the new Premier League season. Let's kick things off then. Everton this season. I do really think that the Toffees could be a bit of a surprise package. I think they've done some really, really good business over the summer. The project seems to be heading in a new direction, new stadium, signing younger players, signing more exciting players. I think Tiano Barry is a very good prospect from Villarreal in the summer. Really exciting things could be coming from him. Obviously, Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall, who's with us at Chelsea, really good pro, really good midfield player, is going to add something much needed to that Everton midfield. And of course, obviously, the major signing, Jack Grealish on loan, which I think is going to be an absolutely brilliant signing for David Moyes. You know, if Grealish can, get back playing to his best, Everton have got a serious player on their hands. Give him that freedom, allow him to get on the ball, do what he does, and yeah, I think he can make a big, big contribution to Everton's season, and the first in the new season. In terms of Chelsea this season, yeah, I'm happy with where things are at. We've had a really good summer. Obviously, won the Club World Cup. We've made some good signings. Your Gittins, Delap, Pedro, Jarrell Hayter at the back. If we can add Xavi Simons as well, maybe a new centre-back, then I think we can have a really strong season. Obviously, we'd love to see a new goalkeeper, but that's not going to happen. But I think Chelsea are in a very good position to try and sustain a decent title challenge for longer than we were able to do last season. We fell away last season, sort of after that Christmas period, but hopefully we can sustain it into sort of the final couple of months of the season. And then you just never know if you're in contention when you get to that point. In terms of a predicted finish for both teams, I think Everton could be a surprise package. I really do. No European football to contend with, a new stadium, the good signings. Let's see what else they do before the window closes. I think Everton could be an outside shout for some form of European football. I really do. I think what will that be? Top 7, top 8, potentially. I think there's definitely a possibility they could do that. Maybe they might fall just short, but I could see Everton finishing. For me, I'd go 8th or 9th. I'll stick with 9th, but I think they're in for a vastly improved season. In terms of where I think Chelsea are going to finish, obviously you've got more competitions to juggle, Champions League plus the 2 domestic cups. I think we can challenge for the title, absolutely. I think we're probably a little bit short in a couple of key areas. I'm going to go for a 3rd place finish, but I also wouldn't be surprised if we were able to potentially finish 2nd. But for now, I'm going to back us to finish 3rd. And that would be, again, another positive step forward. In terms of who will win the league, I mean, it's a bit of a boring answer, but I think it is Liverpool's to lose, particularly if they get Alexander Isak. I think, they've made some brilliant signings this summer already. Florian Wirtz, Ekitike, Frimpong, and obviously Milos Kerkez as well. They've brought in Leone, the young centre-back from Italy. Maybe they get Mark Guehi as well. And they're the strongest team. They're a team to beat. I think people are sort of overlooking Man City. They're almost kind of going under the radar. No one's really saying an awful lot about them. But for me, I think Liverpool are a complete team. They've added really good players to their team. Their team should only be better than it was last season. And I can't really look beyond them for the Premier League title. I appreciate that's a little bit of a boring answer. In terms of relegation, again, it's hard to look beyond the three promoted sides. Although what I would say is Sunderland have done some outstanding business, and I actually think out of the three promoted sides, they're the one that are best set to stay up. Obviously, caveat that the fact that all these players have got to settle in, the manager's got to get them to gel together, and there's no guarantees that that definitely happens. But I think they're the best equipped, and I actually do fancy them to stay up. In terms of my picks to go down, I think it will be Burnley, even though they've done good business. Broyer and Ugachuk, who signed from Chelsea, and a few other bits and pieces. Carl Walker with the experience. I just feel I don't really have enough quality in the areas that matter. So I'm going to go Burnley to go down, Leeds to go down, and I think Brentford could be in big trouble. You know, Thomas Frank's gone. They promoted the set piece coach Keith Andrews. They've been stripped of three of their best players in terms of Mbuemo, Visser, and Norgard. I think they're going to be banging trouble. So I'm going to tip Brentford to get relegated, which might surprise a few people. I think maybe Wolves and West Ham could be in and around that battle, but I think they'll probably just about have enough to stay up. But yeah, guys, those are my predictions. Obviously, let's see how those look come the end of the season. But yeah, let me know your thoughts as well, guys.
Big up to the Toffee Blues. My name is Rich, Crystal Palace fan, content creator for the channel Eagle Eyed Football. And here are my thoughts on the season ahead. So first, let's talk about Everton this season. I think they've done some very good business. Let me just remind myself. So Tierno Barry is someone that we actually looked at a couple of seasons ago before he went to Villarreal. Very, very good striker in my personal opinion. So that's a good signing. Dewsbury Hall, very technically gifted. I don't think him moving to Chelsea was the best of moves in the first place anyway. But obviously he knew Maresca and he wanted to play in the Premier League. So he obviously made that decision. Carlos Alvarez from Flamengo. Don't know too much about him. Adam Asnu from Bayern Munich, left back. I think he'll be decent for you. Mark Travers from Bournemouth. But obviously the highlight one is obviously getting Jack Grealish on loan. Obviously don't know what the situation is regarding how much of the loan, how much of his wages you lot are covering. But when you've already got the likes of Ndai and McNeil and so on and so forth, you've got some good technical players in that squad. So, fair play. I think you've done some very good business. With regards to obviously moving to your new stadium, I see it in two sides. I think Goodison Park is kind of like, I'm thinking like with West Ham's situation, but I guess this is your own stadium. So, like West Ham left Upton Park and like the atmosphere kind of, they just lost it. So hopefully that's something that you can keep. But on the selfish point, listen, we don't win at Goodison Park, so good riddance. Good riddance to that. As much as we love the ground, we found it very difficult there. So yeah, look, obviously I think on a financial basis as well, it's going to really, really help out. So no, definitely you got to look at the plus sides to this, and hopefully it gives you good things in the future. Obviously, extended attendance, added attendance means more revenue as well. So I guess if you could get yourself back into like a European spot as well, that would definitely benefit you too regarding your stadium. Palace. We've had an amazing 3 months, winning the FA Cup, winning the Community Shield the other day as well. But it's been so plighted with negative news. Obviously, we lost our appeal regarding our demotion to the Conference League with this whole we're in multi-club ownership when we're not, and Text having decisive influence when he doesn't. It's a mess. I think if this was one of the bigger sides, they'll find a way around it, or they brush it under the carpet. As mentioned in a podcast by Seferin once, that we know of a multi-club side that we are pretending that no multi-club side. It just shows that we're not a big enough club. We're probably not going to generate the amount of money that they want. So they've brushed it under the carpet, but they've made an example out of us. We're in the Conference League, so we just got to deal with that. But I think the biggest issue at the moment is lack of incomings. We have signed Walter Benitez on a free and Bona Sosa for £2 million, I believe. And that's it so far. And when you think about the fact that you got the likes of Mark Gurhey and Eberechi Eze heavily linked with moves away, then there are light rumours regarding Mateta. I think Newcastle are interested. And then Real Madrid are keeping an eye on Adam Wharton, as well as Liverpool for next season as well. There's going to be quite a few outgoings. But if you think the player outgoings is a scare, the biggest scare is Oliver Glasner, who for the second year running has not been happy that we've not done our business early. you know, and he's going into his last year of his contract, and I don't see him renewing it. So that's going to be the biggest loss of it all. And that's just down to him not getting the backing he wants early on. But look, there's what, 3 weeks left of the window. Hopefully, 2-3 weeks left of the window. Hopefully, we get him enough bodies, because we're in Europe. That's additional games and stuff. So we'll just have to wait and see. Predicted finishes. As it stands, I'm going to put us on our customary 12th place. Don't get me wrong. Europe could have an effect on us as well. And obviously, if we don't increase our squad depth, because we've had some injuries as well, that could obviously hinder us in this season. But I'll put us our customary 12th. I'm actually going to put Everton 11th. I think they'll have a better season than us. The question will be obviously defensively. I think you've got some decent fit players going forward, but defensively, are you a stable? Because it's not been I don't think that's been your best attribute. You've had Pickford to save you quite a few times. But that's just from an outside looking in. I could be completely wrong. So, who would win the league? I still think Liverpool. I think Liverpool win the league, especially if they get Isak. Regarding relegations, I think it will be Burnley. Oh, this is tough. It's very hard because like the likes of Sunderland have had good business, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to stay up. Burnley. How would Leeds do? You know what? Brentford, I think, might struggle unless they get some bodies in, because they've had a tough time. They've had a lot of players wanting to leave or have left already, and all their targets are going elsewhere. So yeah, we'll go Burnley, we'll go Brentford, and I'm torn between Leeds and Wolves. I'll say Leeds for the meantime, but Wolves are a bit of a worry as well. So those will be my three to get relegated. And I think that covers all the topics. Yeah. I appreciate you having me want to just quickly record this. And Rich from Eagle Eyed Football on YouTube. And up the Palace. Have a good season of Everton fans. Take care.
Hi, my name's Jack. I'm a sports journalist covering Fulham FC. Just to give my thoughts on Everton and their summer, I think it's been fairly positive. Kiernan Dewsbury Hall was a player that Fulham were linked to, and then suddenly Everton swooped in 4 or 5 days later and got the deal done. So very, very interesting bit of business. Alcaraz on a permanent deal is fantastic. Barry coming in is promising, and then we've got Jack Grealish coming through the door as well for Everton. I mean, outstanding potential for Jack Grealish, where I feel like with Guardiola, the shackles he was restricted in what he could do because of the style of play. Whereas if he goes to a side that potentially he can just express himself, whether he plays at left side or he plays in the number 10, I'd imagine it'd be left side. I don't know for sure, but yeah, really, really looking forward to seeing what Jack Grealish can do. In terms of Fulham, it's just been a terrible summer in terms of incomings. But we've signed a few key young players onto contracts, which is something that's been very, very important for the club. Tom Kenny stays. Kenny Tete, I shouldn't really mention his name in an Everton context, because obviously he signed a contract with Fulham. Joshua King, Luke DeFugaro, Seth Ridgen, all signing new deals, all young players who are going to be stars of the future, especially Josh King, who is the next one coming through. And yeah, the squad's looking okay. We just need another striker, and with Rodrigo Muniz and the rumours about his future, we're going to need, if he goes, 2 more strikers. Where do I think Everton will finish? I believe they'll finish about 10th or 11th, I believe. They could maybe sneak into the top 10. I think I put them in 11th for the prediction I did this morning, so I'm going to stick with that. And I'm fairly confident they'll have a better season than they did last season. The new stadium is obviously a huge factor. I'm looking forward to going there immensely and seeing the new stadium. And I think they'll have a good season. David Moyes is an incredibly solid manager, and when they came to the Cottage last season, they did an absolute number on us, even from 1-0 down, and the fans were fantastic. I remember tweeting at the time they were the best fans to come to the Cottage last season. I stand by that. And then in terms of 3 going down, I had it as Brentford 18th, Sunderland 19th, Burnley 20th. That is no bias. I genuinely think Brentford will struggle if Visser, who Keith Andrews has confirmed he's not playing this weekend, if he doesn't play for Brentford and finds a move, that's in Buemo and Visser gone, and I think that's a lot of their goal contributions gone out of the team as well. They might be okay, solid defensively, but the quality of the Premier League will I think that will see them get relegated. I really do. Sunderland done good business, but I just think it could be slightly naive in their approach. It's easy to say that, and it's easy to say that about Burnley, but you've got to pick 3 teams, and that's who I think will go. And who do I think will win the league? Cover your ears, Everton fans. I do think Liverpool are going to go back to back. If they get Isak in, it's over. We might as well pack up and go home now. Their squad is phenomenal. They lost the Community Shield final, but it's a glorified friendly, and it's a penalty shootout at the end of the day. I'm looking forward to the season. Looking forward to to seeing what Everton are going to be like, and I'm looking forward to coming to the new stadium. Take care, and thank you for having me on the channel.
Hi guys, I'm Mike from All Leeds TV. So let's talk about Everton this season. I think you've signed an incredible striker in Barry. I think he's definitely different to what you've had previously, and he can definitely improve your strike force. Drewsbury Hall as well is another fantastic player that you signed. I haven't heard too much of your left back. I know he's 19 years old that you signed from Bayern Munich. Again, Jack Grealish, another great player on loan. It's no secret I'm not overly a fan of him, but what he can bring to you, if he can bring back what he had at Villa, I think you've got an exceptional player. And he's only on loan as well with an option to buy, which is fantastic. I think losing to Corey is going to be a big miss for you guys. How you can cope around that, wait and see. Your stadium, I think, is a great new stadium. I've only seen pictures of it in like the 3D models, and from a couple of videos, it looks nice. Moyes, as a manager, he gets Everton. He knows what Everton is. So it's Everton and Moyes. It's a match made in heaven for me. My team Leeds. Now, I think the way that our transfers gone about it, we've gone for a bit more structure, a bit more physical prowess to try and combat the physical nature of the Premier League. You've seen that with likes of Statch coming in, Biol coming in, Goodmanson coming in. We got height as well, that presence for us, Perry as well, which we did need a new goalkeeper. We are slowly looking at new strike. Obviously, time of recording, Dominic Calvert-Lewin is linked with us. I think he's more going to be a backup and that Premier experience for us. In terms of the manager that we've got, I like him, Daniel Farke. I think he's a good manager. He just wasn't backed at Norwich. So for me, as long as he gets the backing, which he seems to have got, but he hasn't at the same time. He knows that we need improvement. He's come out and said that in a couple of his pre-matches that he does need improvement. But again, it's whether or not we can get the wingers in or new number 10 that can help us. In terms of predicting the finishes for both sides, I have got Everton finishing 10th, that mid-table finish. I don't think you've got any worries about being in a relegation battle. You could potentially be a dark horse for Europe or the Europa Conference League if the players like the 3 that I mentioned, your Barry, Dewsbury Hall and Grealish all tick, then yeah, you've got an outside chance of getting European football next season. For us, we are going to be in a relegation battle. There's no two ways about that. I mean, even if we get an exceptional winger, a striker, and a number 10, it's going to be very, very tough. I think we stay up. I have got us 15th. But while we're talking about who do I think is going to get relegated, obviously I've got Burnley, West Ham, and Wolves as my bottom 3. I do think, though, again, Brentford could be in there, Sunderland, Leeds, Bournemouth, potentially Fulham. But if they sign Kevin, which they're after from Shakhtar Donetsk, I think they will be fine. But anywhere between like 13th, 14th place down to, say, 19th are in a relegation battle. For me, I've got Burnley as 20, so I think Burnley are dead set to go down. Now, it's not going to impress you guys. Who do I think is going to win the league? I have got Liverpool to win the league. But again, Man City, Arsenal, Chelsea, Newcastle to an extent are all going to be in that Premier League title race. I think it's going to be so close this season where like near the end of the season where one team drops off, then another, then another. So it is going to be very, very close at the top and the bottom of the league. And that's when I think that someone like an Everton could sneak into European spot. And believe it or not, in my prediction video that I've done, I've got Everton to win a League Cup or FA Cup. So again, I predicted that on our preview show. But yeah, I'm Michael. Thank you guys.
Manchester City star player Jack Grealish has obviously just moved to Everton. With that in mind, let's have a little think about how the Toffees are going to get on this season. Now, as I touched on, obviously Everton got Jack Grealish on loan over the line, and I think what a fantastic signing. You've literally got £100 million player, and you're not having to pay anything just of yet. Obviously, there's that option to buy for £50 million, but I think it's a cracking deal. I think the Everton fans are absolutely going to love him. You've also brought in Dewsbury Hall, who is Premier League proven, a very good midfielder, box to box. He's going to offer you a lot of energy, like Grealish can offer a lot of energy. And you've also got Barry up front, young French striker. I've got to say, I haven't seen a lot of him. However, I was on holiday actually last year in Valencia and they were playing Villarreal. So I went to watch the game and he started for Villarreal. And I've got to say, he was absolutely fantastic in that game. So if that's anything to go off, maybe you've got a good player in your hands, who knows? And you've got the young lad at left back, Asnu, bought in from Bayern Munich, who I'm not going to lie, I don't know much about, but, gives Mikolenko a bit of competition there. Makes sense to me. I don't think Everton are done yet. I think there's going to be quite a few more incomings, but I rate their business, I'd say 8 out of 10 so far. And from your transfer business to ours, I think so far we've had a cracking window as well. Similar to you, we brought in a lot of energy. We brought in Tiani Ryan as a midfield. He's fantastic box to box. And he's a goal scoring midfielder as well. We brought in Ryan Cherky, who's a creative mastermind, it seems so far. I mean, he's very early days, he's very young, so we'll see what we get of him this season. Might be a bit more, got to be patient with him. And then Ryan Aït-Nouri at left back, who, we've not had a left back in so long. We've had Ake, Vardiol, even Akanji at times play there. Don't get me wrong, they've all done solid jobs. So we've obviously won trebles, we've won titles, can't complain. But to have an out-and-out left wing back, yeah, I'm happy with that. James Trafford in goal, hopefully that is Jordan Pickford's successor for England. Could be the next England number one. And Marcus Bettinelli, how can I forget? What a signing. For Everton, I'm going to be realistic. I think you're probably going to finish about 10th. An improvement on last season, definitely. I think a lot of teams who have now got Europe, your likes of Palace, your likes of Forest, will probably struggle in the league because of that. So yeah, I'm going to go 10th for Everton. And I think for City, listen, look what I'm wearing. I'm a blue. I've got to be biased. I'm sure you guys probably rate yourselves a lot higher in the table, but I'm going to say first for us. Beating your rivals, though, to the title, so I'm sure you don't mind that. From one end of the table down to the bottom part of the table, I don't think Everton are going to have to worry about at all this season, which, for you Toffees, you definitely deserve a respite from that, and in your new stadium as well. How amazing that's going to be. Hopefully having a cracking season. Maybe a little cup run for you as well. But yeah, in the relegation zone, I'm afraid to say I think it's going to be Sunderland, Leeds and Burnley. I just can't see any other teams being worse than them, if I'm being honest with you. I think Sunderland, they've recruited really well. Obviously, they got Granit Xhaka, but then they've brought in an awful amount of young, talented players, but a lot who are going to be going to the AFCON. So that will be a real struggle for them when the AFCON comes around. I know we've got that issue with Marmoush, but it's not as big an effect, I don't think. Burnley, to me, they're still a championship side, and I'll say the same for Leeds, to be honest with you. I think teams like Brentford and West Ham will struggle, but I think the other three will be worse.
J-Mott here from Stretford Paddock. So some thoughts on the new season coming up. First of all, Everton, what do we make of what Everton have done in the transfer window and how they're going to do this season? I think Everton will do quite well this season. I don't want to be patronising, but I think Everton could end up around mid-table. I don't know if you guys would be happy with that, but I think it'd be decent considering the amount of resources that are around the Premier League at the minute and the amount of teams and clubs that are spending big amounts of money. In terms of the transfer business, I think the big signing obviously is Jack Grealish, and I like that signing for Everton. I think he's an exciting player. I know he's had some issues, shall we say. He's sort of like just gone on a bit of a bender ever since they won the treble, but going to a club like Everton is still a massive club with passionate fans. I think it could be the sort of platform for him to perform and maybe get himself back in the England squad for a World Cup. So I think he'll do well for you. I think David Moyes has done well at Everton, obviously suits him and it's a good fit. So yeah, I think Everton finish around, I'll go with 11th for Everton. In terms of Manchester United, obviously we've gone big in the transfer window this summer, brought in Cunha and Bumo, Sesko. We've looked pretty good pre-season. Ironically, the one game we didn't look that great was against Everton. I'm sure you guys watched that one. Thought you played well. I don't think United played particularly well. But other than that, I do feel pretty positive. I think we can improve on last season because that was a disaster, finishing 15th. But I expect Manchester United to be in the conversation at least for the European places. I think we can actually surprise a few people, especially, and it's a big if we can get the Carlos Baleba deal done, which has been talk of us going in for the Brighton midfielder. I think he'd be a massive signing for Manchester United. So I'm going to go with United finishing 5th. It's quite ambitious, I know. But it could even be Champions League football, that. But the amount of money we've spent, and also last season, was a little bit of an anomaly. We shouldn't have finished 15th. We had a lot of injuries. I'm not making excuses, we were woeful. But Manchester United don't tend to finish 15th, do they? Let's be honest. Even though we've been pretty poor since Fergie retired, we've not been that bad. So I expect us to improve a lot this season. And having one game a week, I think is going to be a huge advantage. So yeah, I'll go with United to finish 5th. In terms of who's going to win the title, I think it's probably going to be City, unfortunately. And the relegated teams, I think the teams that have come up will go straight back down. Sunderland, Leeds and Burnley. That tends to be what happens. I think Sunderland spent quite a lot of money, haven't they? Leeds, they've all spent money, to be fair, and brought in players. Leeds got Dominic Calvert-Lewin, didn't they, on a free? But yeah, I think they'll struggle. I think there's a big gap between the Premier League teams that have been here for a few years and the ones that are just coming up. So I think the bottom 3 will be the 3 that have just come up. And unfortunately, I think City will win the title again. I hope I'm wrong.
Hi, I'm John Lane from the True Faith Newcastle United podcast, and I'm just going to give you some thoughts about the season ahead. Firstly, of course, your channel, Everton this season. Look, the less said about Everton, the better in terms of the last game of the season for us. I think Moyes has done a fantastic job since going back. Probably, I was really surprised to hear that that he'd go back, but he seems to be the master of doing this. He did it at West Ham really well, and I think he's been a really good fit going back to Goodison Park, and I'm really pleased for him, and I'm really pleased for the fan base that that's been the case. I think Everton probably finish in and around mid-table. I think anywhere between 9th and 12th, I think probably represents a good season for them. I think some of the transfer business has been really interesting actually when you look at like the likes of, I think Jack Grealish is a great sign in Dewsbury Hall. They're gonna make such a difference to this team for yourselves moving forward, and the stadium is something to be excited about, but it'll be really interesting to see how you adjust to that, because going from that really Goodison's an old traditional ground, isn't it, and it was really emotional that goodbye that was said at the end of last season. But an adjustment to a new ground, it'll be interesting to see how that is. But it looks like somewhere that's been built to kind of still have, although it's a new stadium, to still have a bit of an intimidating atmosphere. But it'll never be the old lady, will it? Let's be honest. And so let's see how that goes. But I don't think this is the same as kind of when West Ham went from Upton Park to their stadium. In terms of our club, Newcastle, it's obviously been a very noisy pre-season, thanks to a certain Swedish striker and the links to a club not too far from yourselves, that has made things a little bit more challenging. But look, I think the transfer business is starting to come through now. Obviously, we brought in Alanga earlier on in the window, really early in the window. Ramsdale's come in. We signed Malik Chow from AC Milan, who's 24-year-old centre half. He, has been there for 3 seasons, and he's averaged between 20 to 22 games a year. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how quickly he can get in, but I think he's certainly going to be the future. We're hoping he's kind of reminiscent of that Sven Botman signing, so that could be really, really interesting. And then, we're about to sign Jacob Ramsey. By the looks of it, that looks like it's only a matter of time. And then the word is that we're going to get Johan Wisser as well, who will help replace Wilson. The biggest thing we've done, really, I think, is we've raised the floor of our squad. So some of the players that have left, the likes of, Dubravka, Longstaff, and Wilson, they've all been replaced by better quality players in their positions. So we haven't necessarily strengthened the first 11, but we've strengthened the squad depth, and that's something that we've really struggled with, and especially with Champions League football to come. in terms of, the job Eddie Howe's done, look, we finished 5th place last year and won our first domestic trophy in 70 years, our first trophy in 56 years. So it couldn't have been much better for us. That's a lot to try and do again, but I've got ultimate faith in Eddie Howe and what he does for us. So, I think he'll choose the right players. I think he'll choose the right system. I think he'll get the best out of these players that he can. And that's the best that we can hope for. Predicted finishes, I'm going to say that Everton are going to finish 9th in the Premier League, and I'm going to say that Newcastle are going to finish 6th. I think we will come close to that 5th place, which I think will probably be a Champions League place. But it's going to be hard work, especially if we lose Alexander Isak. In terms of winning the league, I think I've kind of ummed and ahed with this. I think there's a lot of change at Liverpool. I think it's going to be Chelsea or City. There's just something telling me that because of the amount of players that have changed at Liverpool, they've gone from a position where they barely brought any players in and managed to win the league from that, just changing their manager, to going far the other way, and they've brought all these new players in, and I think that takes time to bed in. This isn't FIFA where you can just sign loads of players and they just start playing perfectly because they're all robots. It's a lot of characters to get on the right page and the right place and everything else. But look, they've made quality additions to their squad. I think they'll finish in the top 4 quite comfortably. I just don't see them winning the league. Arsenal have brought in Gyökeres, and he did amazing at Sporting Lisbon. It'll be interesting to see how well he does in the Premier League. And then, Chelsea, they've gone mad with their signings, but they're obviously off the back of this Club World Cup win. I suppose the question is, with both them and City, is how much will the Club World Cup impact the early part of the season, and can you really afford to fall behind in that early stage? So I'm going to plump for Man City to regain their Premier League crown. And I think Pep's then coming towards the end of his contract. He wants to make sure he finishes on a high. In terms of who will get relegated, I think we're going to potentially see... I think Sunderland will definitely go down, but I would say that, wouldn't I? I'm a Newcastle fan, but I just think they've tried to do everything they can in the close season, but it's a big ask to do that. I think Burnley will go down. I think the other team that will go down is either Brentford or West Ham. I think Brentford have had a lot of change. They've lost Mbeumo. There's big rumours that Wissa's going to come to Newcastle as well. They've also lost their manager, who's obviously a fantastic manager and has shown that. And then West Ham have not really done much strengthening. I think Potter's been asked to kind of almost perform a bit of a miracle, when they have made signings. They've replaced Mikel Antonio with Callum Wilson. Callum Wilson was a fantastic servant for us, but he's not the same player that we had all those years ago. So yeah, that's me. I hope that kind of gives you a bit of flavour of how a Newcastle fan, one Newcastle fan, not all of them, but I'll try my best, feels about kind of how Everton and Newcastle will do this way. Best of luck this season for 36 out of your 38 games. And how are the Mags?
Hi, Matt Davis here from Forest Focus to give some season predictions and answer the questions that you guys have sent over to me. Starting with Everton this season, thoughts on them? I feel like they finished last season quite well, didn't they? They've got that solid base to build from with a good back four, good keeper, Garner Gay in midfield, good solid player. Always kind of the lack of goals has been the problem with them, and it looks like they might well have addressed at least some of that with Grealish, an exciting player. I suppose you wonder if his best years are behind him, but he's only 30, so I think he's 30, so he should be good, and he's got a point to prove with the World Cup year, which should be a big factor in it as well. I don't know much about the striker Barry, but people talk highly of him, and Dewsbury Hall should be a really good, solid signing as well. So I like the business Everton have done for sure. And Moyes is that kind of reliable Premier League manager that should mean I don't think you'd have anything to worry about relegation. I think that we'll get onto a season prediction at the end. I think the new stadium shouldn't be a factor because it looks like a really good stadium and should have a good atmosphere. The steep wall thing behind the goal. and all that. And it looks like, I mean, this won't affect the football pitch, but it looks like it's in a nice location on the docks and all that kind of stuff. So as long as it's easy to get into and out of it, I'm sure it'll be a good experience for fans. And I don't think leaving Goodison will be a factor in results. I guess it remains to be seen, but it feels like Everton are entering a pretty exciting new era under the new ownership, who've had a bit of time to bed in now. Looking at Forest, well, obviously we've lost Anthony Elanga, and it looked like we were going to lose Morgan Gibbs-White, but in one of the strangest transfer sagas I can remember, I don't even know if saga's the word, it was all done and dusted pretty quickly with Spurs, weirdly. He stayed. So Elanga out, Dan Ndoye in as his replacement, should be a good addition from Bologna. And then looks like we're signing McAtee and a couple of other players, and we've got a guy called Igor Jesus in, who will probably start quite a few games. He's got one cap for Brazil, 24-year-old striker. And we've retained a lot of players as well, which is the main thing. We've got all our defence from last season. So we've still got Murillo. Olaine has signed a new contract, as did Nico Williams, as did Matt Sells. So it feels like we're in a good spot to build. We've got Europe. So we're playing Thursday, Sunday, which I think is going to be a big challenge, and it's going to hurt us. So I don't think we'll finish 7th or anything like that this season. So we did our pre-season predictions, and I said 10th. I think that would be a great season for us. And for Everton, I'd say 12th, something like that. Just because will you score enough goals? I don't know if that question's quite been answered yet. Probably remains to be seen, but I don't think you'll concede many. And I certainly don't think you'll be worried about looking over your shoulder this season. Who will win the league? Liverpool. Sorry, I think they look like they've probably got better. Rodri's going to miss the start of the season for City, and I don't know if they've solved all their issues. Defensively as much as anything, they've got a lot of players in. I probably have to sell some, including McAtee to us. So, and Arsenal have got Gyökeres, but I don't think that'll be enough to overhaul Liverpool. So I'll say Liverpool will win the league. Sorry, and who will get relegated? I mean, I think the 3 clubs that came up still. I know Brentford look like they might struggle, but they should have enough, I think, because they won't concede that many. They'll probably just grind out enough 1-0s at home. I think them and Wolves are the 2 teams you'd look at. Wolves have sold Cunha and Aït-Nouri, so they might be in a bit of bother. But really, Sunderland started from a low base. I know they've signed good players, but they weren't anywhere near ready for the Premier League. Burnley, I don't think, have done enough from what I've seen. And Leeds haven't quite yet. And there's question marks against Farker and Scott Parker if they're really Premier League managers. So I'll say the 3 that came up will go back down again, which I think is a bad thing for the league. So I wouldn't mind if that didn't happen. And then I'd be looking at Brentford or Wolves as the 3rd team to go down. So I hope that's all right. Thanks very much and good luck for the season.
Hello, it's Martin here from Sunderland's Roker Report and Away the Podcast. And it's nice to be talking about Premier League football for the first time in 8 years or whatever it's been. We seem to have been away for a long time. I think the Premier League's changed. We're all very much looking forward to the new season, although how long that positivity lasts is pretty much anybody's guess because we don't really have a clue about how we'll do. But I'll come on to that. Look, as far as Everton go, to be honest, while we've been away from things, I haven't really paid that much attention to the top flight. I've always kept an eye on Everton because of Jordan Pickford, who's still a big favourite at Sunderland, especially when you play that lot from up the road. I've got a few mates who are Everton fans, and I was speaking to them a couple of weeks ago, and they were pretty concerned with the Everton squad as it is at present, and they weren't full of confidence at that time and really thought you needed to strengthen significantly. Jack Grealish has obviously come in, I think, yesterday, and that could be a game changer for you. That really is a good signing, I think, if you can get him right and give him the freedom to play. And, you've got the new stadium factor to come into it as well. And obviously the last season at Goodison, there's an awful lot of emotion that goes on there. The first season going into the new ground, we've been there when we left Roker Park for the Stadium of Light. And although that was almost 30 years ago, it seems like yesterday. And, even for myself, you're still torn between what feels like home, whether it's Roker Park or the Stadium of Light. And, that settling in period can be hard. You have that initial optimism and excitement, I guess, when you get into a new ground. That can soon peter out, and eventually it'll become normal. But does that ground give you an advantage early on? Potentially, but it can feel like playing neutral ground for a while. So it'll be really interesting to see how Everton as a team and as a club really take to that, because I think Goodson's been a real advantage for you over the past few years, or for an awful long time. And I have a concern that the new ground will not be, but we'll kind of see how that goes. And look, I like Everton. I've always liked Everton. I'm not saying this to blow smoke up your asses, but in the Merseyside derby, when I watch that, I always want the blue half to win. And Everton have had some good connections with Sunderland over the years, Peter Reid and Paul Bracewell and people like that. But David Moyes, Jesus, the worst, most pathetic, gutless fraud of a manager we've ever had at Sunderland, I think. And you'd bucket him in with Laurie McMenemy as the worst managers we've ever had. After 2 games, he said we were basically destined for relegation, and he gave up, checked out, and did not do anything at all to try to rectify the situation. So, look, I'm sorry, but my desire to see him fail miserably overrides pretty much every other feeling I have with regards to how any club that he's in charge of performs. So we'll leave that one. We'll leave that one there. But as for Sunderland, which is obviously what you really want to hear about, we're heading into the unknown in more ways than one. We were good for some spells last season. Obviously, we finished 16th the season before. Regis Lebris, the manager, came in last summer, and we got off to a really good start. Played some really good football, and the biggest noticeable thing about him was he really set us up well. We really structured. Everybody in the team knew what they were doing tactically. So from that perspective, it was really good. We had some ups and downs throughout the course of the season. Didn't play well in some spells, but the biggest thing looking ahead to this new season is that we'll probably have 8 or 9 new players in the starting 11 on Saturday against West Ham, and there'll be more players added by the end of the transfer window. The club have realised that this gap between Championship and Premier League isn't surmountable with the core of the same team that got you up. I think you'd have to be a Harlem Globetrotters of the Championship sort of team to bridge that gap with only a handful of additions. So, look, I think the club have realised that gap's too big. They've even said, it's not like going up 1 division; it's like going up 3 in terms of quality. And we had a really young side last season. I think it was the youngest side to play at Wembley, and the team that started the game at Wembley had no Premier League experience at all. None of them had ever played a Premier League game. So you can get a sense of the leap that would have been, the gap that we'd have to bridge for that team to actually perform with even a chance of staying up in the Premier League. So look, the club have invested heavily over the summer. I think we are only second to Forest in terms of the spend of a newly promoted club over the past, forever, I think. And that'll be blown out by the end of the transfer window. I've got no doubts about that. We're not going down that route of buying the best Championship players, which clubs like Ipswich did last season. And you can argue the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do, but I think the thing that's giving Sunderland supporters confidence at the moment is that we're actually trying to do something different. We've spent an awful lot of money. There's 10 players come in. Granit Xhaka is the biggest name that we brought in. Look, from a leadership point of view, an experience perspective, he'll be hugely important, as well as his quality on the field. We brought in a number of good young players from overseas, spent a lot of money on some of them, all of whom are highly rated, international players in the main. And look, you've got that unknown, haven't you? You don't know how they're going to take to Premier League football. They're coming into a new club. They're going to be coached in a different way, getting to know the new teammates, coming into a new league. They're having to move area. There's all these variables that could work one way or the other. But look, I think the ownership they've done brilliantly over the last 4 years, getting us out of League One, back to the top flight. And the way that they've done it has been to not spend a great deal of money. We haven't spent too much. We've developed players, spent little bits of money on younger players, developed them, and sold some of them on. The likes of Ross Stewart, we've sold. Jack Clark, we obviously sold last summer. Joe Bellingham's gone this summer. Tommy Watson went to Brighton in the summer. And we haven't actually spent a great deal, which is why we can spend this summer. And I kind of get the sense that this has always been the plan. because the gap from League One to getting promotion, I think they felt they could achieve that and bridge that gap by taking that strategy, by investing in young players, giving them an opportunity to make mistakes, to develop, all that sort of stuff, sell them on. This gap here, they can't bridge by doing that. So the money that they've not spent over the past few seasons and recouped in transfer fees is now all being invested into the team. And look, it gives you a bit of hope. It's by no means a key to automatically staying up, of course not. But I think that'll stand us in good stead. And look, you can't criticise it at all. I think Sunderland supporters are happy, confident, and pleased that the management's taking this approach, because they're giving it the red hot go, and that's all you can ask. Another thing I think will stand us in good stead as a manager, Regis Lebris, as I said before, he came in at the start of last season, during last summer, pretty much to the surprise of everybody. I don't think anybody could really hand on heart say they knew too much about him, but he's done really, really well. He's pragmatic rather than idealistic. We're very, very comfortable out of possession, and I think that should augur well for us. We don't want to try to dominate the ball. We didn't go up by scoring a ton of goals. We didn't go up by having a really robust, tight defence. We just went up by kind of tactically outsmarting people on a lot of occasions. He's really good in game. And I say that that pragmatism should serve us in good stead. It should serve us well, because you look at some of the managers who've brought teams up, and I'm thinking of Russell Martin at Southampton last season, who he's got this idealistic style of play, and he's going to stick to that no matter what. And it doesn't work. You've got to be flexible. You've got to react to things, and you've got to do what's best for the team on that particular day. And I think Lebris does that. He's not wedded to a particular style of play. He's obviously got a formation he tends to use. The players know exactly what they're doing out of possession as well as in possession. And, hopefully it'll work. The big games last season where we performed our best were really against teams up at the top of the league, teams who on paper were better than us. We sometimes struggle against teams where they allowed us to have the ball and look to just stand off and let us break them down. We struggled with that sometimes, but again, it's essentially a new team that's going to be taken to the field in the Premier League. So there's question marks about how well they can adapt quickly to what Lebris is asking them to do. And, what happens with that squad dynamic, because, you're going to put some people's noses out of joint with them not being in the team. You've got people like Dan Neil who were captain last season. He's unlikely to be anything more than a sub for the first few months of the season with the players that we brought in. So you've got a big changeover, and how that impacts morale and the feeling about the squad and all that sort of stuff, again, is another variable. So you can kind of get a sense now why I'm saying it's a bit of an unknown. But look, all of that said, it's going to be a hugely difficult season for us. I think it's a hugely difficult season for anybody, any club who's come up to the Premier League from the Championship, who's been promoted. And for a 17th place finish right now, and not just snap your hand off, I'd snap your arm and your neck off as well, because it's going to be a massive test for everybody at the club. And I include, our supporters in that, as well as the management and the players. We kind of had however many seasons out at the top flight, and with the exception of 1 or 1.5 seasons, we've been used to pretty much winning games or being in with a shout of winning every game. And I think it's going to be a bit different this season. So we're going to need a different sort of level of patience and again, pragmatism, like Lebris has, to sort of navigate this first season back successfully. And if we do, whichever means that we've gone about that will be justified. As far as Everton go, look, I think you'll probably be somewhere in that mid-table position, 7th to 12th or around about there, comfortably mid-table. But I'm hoping that's after Moyes has been sacked, after being completely incompetent for the first 5 or 6 games, and you get somebody decent in. But that's my own bias and the trauma of watching him as a Sunderland manager for a season coming through again. Look, winning the league, you're probably not going to like this answer, but I reckon Liverpool could probably do it again. And as for relegation, look, let's just hope it's something different. Let's hope it's not the 3 promoted clubs. It's really not good for football. It's really not good for competition. And the more that happens, the bigger that gap gets between Championship and Premier League. And, unless we reach that day that seems inevitable, where the Premier League's a closed shop and everything else happens underneath, we don't want that. We want a competitive pyramid of football in the country, and to enable that to be as good as it can be, we need teams to be able to come up and stay up. So, if the 3 promoted clubs went down again this season, that's going to be 3 times in a row it's happened, and that just spells trouble ahead. So look, let's hope it's something different. You're looking at the likes of Wolves, Bournemouth, Brentford, people like that who potentially could struggle. And for us, we just need to be better than 3 other teams. So fingers crossed from our perspective that we are. But yeah, all the best in the new season, and good luck in the new ground.
Yo, it's your boy Durag Diaries. Big up to the Toffee Blues for getting me involved in this video. Just giving you my sort of predictions and thoughts for the season. Starting it off with, of course, Everton. A team who, over the last 6 or 7 months, have started to progress, started to step forward in my eyes. We saw one of the first games with your new manager, or ex-old manager, whatever you guys want to refer to it as, but in David Moyes. And you saw the instant impact that he had. We set up with a back 3, but still couldn't stop you guys from breaking us down and scoring those goals. And that's what I think David Moyes does so well, and why I actually think you guys may have a pretty good season. Well, a step up from last year. He's a manager who knows how to get the best out of players, especially those that may be feeling a bit more down and out and having a struggle with times. A player like Jack Grealish, who I think is a great signing for Everton, by the way. Some of the other business that you've done, I can't get too behind. I don't know too much about Tierno Barry. I watched him in the friendly against Man United and seemed to be falling all over the place, I'll be honest. But looks like a decent player. Alcaraz does look really good, and he could be an improvement. And Jai is the standout for me when I look at the squad. Jai Branthwaite is a new contract, is great business as well. But Njai, I think, is the one player that you should look to build your team around. Real danger on the attack. One of those players that can do it by themselves, a bit of a maverick, and what you would look for in a team that's going to be battling at that mid-table. So when I'm looking at your team, looking at your squad, I think Everton could finish, I would aim just around mid-table-ish, maybe in a 13th position, maybe 12th, 11th, pushing potentially onto that top 10, depending whatever your top players perform throughout the season. But playing in a new stadium is something that we're familiar with, and it does have an impact on the team, but not just the team and the fans, getting used to the atmosphere, getting used to playing in that new place, and get those players just getting used to a whole new pitch and making that your home ground. So that, I think, will have an impact on your season. But having a 1-game week, having that time where David Moyes has had a full pre-season, I expect to see a major improvement from you boys this summer and this window, this season. And yeah, Everton, they're a team to look out for. Definitely a team to look out for. I'd say above the likes of Brentford, maybe even a Crystal Palace. But it's all about whether David Moyes can get the best out of the likes of Jack Grealish, who I'd expect in that number 10 role. I know he's played left majority of his career, but in that 10, if you can just give him the freedom to play how he did at Aston Villa, you got a real danger on your hands there. Now, for my team, obviously off the back of our Super Cup loss, a lot of positives, I'll be honest. In that game, you can take a lot of positives. Thomas Frank has shown his adaptability. He showed his innovation with the multiple setups that he's done at Tottenham already, with the 4-3-3 and the 3-5-2. And I like my manager. I like going into the season, what I've seen of us in pre-season, but also especially in that game. In the transfer window, I think we need to do a few more moves. We've been seeing the links to the likes of Eze and Savio, and those are 2 players that I think could majorly change the season for Tottenham and be a huge upgrade on what we currently have in those positions. Obviously, in Eze's position, we don't have no 10 currently available. Julian Madders set to come back from an injury in a few months. So for Spurs, I think we still have some way to go in the transfer window, another 2 to 3 more key signings to really start pushing on and aiming for that top 4. But until then, with the team we currently have, I think I'm content I think we got some good players in. Kudus is some great business, and so is João Paulinho, are two players that have that Premier League proven experience, so you know what to expect from them. And they have that maturity where you're not going to be waiting for them to improve throughout the season and or get better across the years. It's, you know, that you're going to get that top quality instantly. And Kudus just is a massive upgrade on the current wingers we have, being that, like I spoke earlier, a maverick, someone who can do it all by themselves, running down the wing and gets you off your seat. Ultimately, when you're at the stadium, you want players that get you off your seat, and Kudus is exactly that. So for me, great signing. Currently, I would have Spurs finishing 6th behind Manchester United. But I think, again, we can make that jump potentially to 5th with the right signings and the right players being picked up. I'd say we need to focus on getting that cam left winger and potentially another centre-back option, because if we do play the back three, we only have 3 senior centre-backs that are fit at this moment in time. When it comes to winning the league, I have Manchester City. I've got Man City winning the league. I think Pep Guardiola is he's got his last few years in management, and he's going to be looking to be hungry. He's waiting to get back. For me, in my eyes, to get back on what everyone wrote him off last year. A lot of people off the back of the last season think that he's not the same manager, not the best, can't compete with the likes of Alex Ferguson because, you know, he would never fall off so bad. But look, a lot of people think that Man City is a one-man team when Rodri's not there. I think without Rodri now, they've had a full preseason to prepare for it. They're going to be a problem. They're going to be a big problem, especially with Cherki and some of the other additions, as well as, you know, I expect Haaland to be a massive, massive game changer for them. When you've got a guy that scores 25 goals a season, you're always a problem. So on that side of things, I've got Manchester City winning the league. And on the relegation, I think it's always got to be a few teams that come up. Love to see Leeds stay up, and even Burnley, because, you know, former Scott Parker former player and Scott Parker as their manager. But unfortunately, they're the two teams that come up that I see going down. I think Sunderland are going to survive the drop. You know, some really smart, shrewd signings, but also good, experienced and mature players like Granit Xhaka coming into the team, who is now the captain. And then the last team is this left field shout. And I know we took all of their managers on their board, but I'm going to go Brentford. You know, hiring a set piece coach to be your manager may be a mistake, on top of the fact that you've lost Norgard, you've lost Mbeumo, could potentially still lose Vissa in this window, and it looks like they're going to miss out on their number one target replacement in Kalimuendo. So it's not looking good for Brentford. I've potentially got Brentford going down this window. They're going to be my team that finish in potentially 18th or 19th. But yeah, look, that's my relegations. That's my predictions. Big up for getting me involved once again. And yeah, man, it's your boy Durag Diaries. Thank you.
So my predictions for the 25-26 season, here we go. Looking at Everton. It hasn't been an amazing pre-season for Everton. And we played you guys, obviously, in the summer series, and you didn't look great. There seemed to be a lot of work that needed to be done with that team. And you seem to be starting to address it. Signings of Jack Grealish, Dewsbury Hall. Very good signings. I wanted Dewsbury Hall at West Ham, but it wasn't to be. You went and got him. Moyes, solid, dependable manager. No frills. You know exactly what you're going to get. And he can start to build on what he's done last season in a new stadium. That's going to be the key factor. And we're going to talk a little bit about that when I talk about where both teams are going to finish. Our team, we've got a really good group of players in that team. We've got a good team with a massive hole in it in the midfield. That is our weakness, and we still have yet to address it. I'm hoping we are going to address it. We're trying, we're making moves, but nothing's come off yet. And that concerns me. That really concerns me when we go into next season, because we're going to struggle if we can't address that, and I'm hoping we will. But, you know, Nicholas Füllkrug looks sharp and fit, and he's going to be key. I think he's a very good player who was hampered by injuries last season. You know, we got Diouf we signed at left back, and his crossing is unbelievable. Like, between him, Bowen and Füllkrug, I think there's going to be a lot of goals and assists there. We've got Somerville to come back, who is exciting. Callum Wilson, I wasn't thrilled about it, but if he stays fit, he scores goals. It's as simple as that, really. So, yeah, we have a good team. Like I said, just get that midfield sorted. Potter, I'm giving him a chance. I'm behind him. I think he's brought a very good team spirit that was much needed. The team were down, and we got rid of Kudus, who seemed to be a negative influence in the dressing room, as good as he was on the pitch. So I think that could help us. In terms of predicted finishes, I don't think it's going to be an amazing season for both teams. I think Everton, going into that new stadium, are going to have issues. It's a better stadium than ours, don't get me wrong, but it's still new. It's still going to feel like a neutral ground, and it's a nicer ground with nicer facilities that opposition teams are going to be more comfortable in, going to enjoy playing in more. So I think there's going to be that time to sort of really bed in and make it your own. That is going to translate onto the pitch. Like I said, we had a disaster moving stadiums. So for that reason, I think Everton, I would say 13th, I would say next season. And then you can build on that for the following season. I know it's not exciting. West Ham, I put us 12th. Really and truly, I don't think we're going to get the signings we need to really get us back up and challenging for Europe, and that's the thing that concerns me. Really need to get those signings in, but I think it's going to be a safe, boring season for both teams, to be honest. In terms of who will win the league, you're not going to like to hear this, but it's going to be Liverpool, the Copites, the Red Shite, as they say. They're going to win the league. Their team's looking unbelievable. Ekitike looks great. And then if they get Isak, which I think they will, it could be a wrap. But don't count out the likes of Chelsea either. And who will get relegated? I'm going for Burnley, Wolves, and Brentford. So there you go. There's my predictions.
Hey guys, it's Dave from Talking Walls. Just giving my thoughts ahead of this season. Yeah, it's been a difficult pre-season for Wolves, to be honest. We're not the only club in the Premier League, but we didn't pick up a win in pre-season. Performances haven't been fantastic, and of course, it's going to be a really interesting season for Wolves to see how we can cope without the likes of Matheus Cunha, Ryan Aït-Nouri, Nelson Semedo. Although we have brought players in at the moment to potentially replace them. Our transfer business has been very, very slow as of today, and we're sort of a handful of days before the transfer window. A lot of fans, our fans especially, will probably start to be a little bit jealous of Everton's business. I know you guys had a slow start, but some of the business that you've picked up over the last week or so, Dewsbury Hall, even Jack Grealish, good homegrown talent. I'm excited. As a Wolves fan, I would love Grealish to be at this club, but with his Villa connections, he's always had a little bit of stick whenever he's played against us. I think he'd be a fantastic player for Wolves. I would have liked him here, but I'm going to be keeping an eye on how he gets on, certainly. But it could be an exciting season for you guys. I think the new stadium, which I'm really interested and excited to go to as well. I'm sure there'll be like a bit of a buzz around the Everton fan base. And I think the first year, hopefully, of real stability under David Moyes as well. I don't know. I think if your transfer window continues and you have quite a solid start to the season, I don't think there's any reason why Everton can't be knocking on the door. As a late shout to an outside shout to go for European football. We've seen it with a certain amount of teams over the last couple of years now, and there's no doubt why Everton can't do it. Similar to how Moyes got West Ham to do it a few years ago. In terms of final league positions, I think at the moment I try and be as positive as I can, although I can't speak for all the Wolves fan base because there is a lot of negativity around it right now. I still think we're good enough to compete and be in the Premier League, but for Wolves I can't really see any higher than sort of a 15th, 16th place finish. I just really hope that we're not looking over our shoulder constantly as we did for pretty much 3/4 of last season. For Everton, the same. I think it could be a real season of, what if for Everton. I think there's on one hand, I think they could easily be pushing for sort of top 8 football. But there's another side of things where I could see you're going to have a similar season to us, and you may well finish sort of around the 13th, 14th mark. But in terms of the wider Premier League, title race will be interesting. I think City will be up for it a little bit more. I'd probably side maybe with City winning the title. However, will that sort of Club World Championship hangover hold them back at the start of the campaign? Liverpool again are going to be up there. They're probably amongst the favourites, and I think they've bolstered their lineup, and they may well bring 1 or 2 more players in as well. Bottom 3, I'm going to be really boring and say the 3 that have come up. To be honest, I ain't bothered who goes down as long as it's not Wolves. So we'll wait and see. But guys, thanks for having me on. All the best for the rest of the season, apart from when you come to Molyneux and when we come to you to play you boys. But yeah, look after yourselves, and fingers crossed it's a good season for the Toffees.